What is up? Welcome to episode 165. Glad to be back. Hopefully everybody is doing all right. Busy week for me. This weekend I purchased a large collection from someone I knew. But it's someone I knew. I didn't realize they had cards, and I didn't realize they were a dealer. Heavy vintage. A lot of vintage, which is what I was hoping to do this year, is acquire more vintage. And just with this one large collection buyout, I've exceeded any goals of what vintage I wanted sort of to add. So I'm going to talk about that on the next Hobby Quick Hits. I'm going to call that the dichotomy of a deal. So I'll save all the details from this episode. I'll just say around my desk, I'm sitting here in the studio office and just have one of those L-shaped desks, and there's just stuff everywhere. So I got my work cut out for me to try to get all this stuff sleeved in different stuff I use, priced, listed, organized. If you've heard me talk about how I organize my stuff, everything's in alphabetical order. So I've got to integrate the new inventory into the alphabetical order system. And so it's going to probably take a few weeks, maybe a month. Truthfully, I'm going to try to get it done before that. But kind of surrounded. This is probably one of the largest purchases I've made at least in a while that I can remember. So, and it just kind of fell into my lap. I wasn't really looking for something, but like I said, I'll save that for Hobby Quick Hits, how the deal went down. Today's show, got a great guest. I don't know how many times he's been here, 3 or 4, but doesn't matter. Mr. Peter Steinberg from SGC is in the house today. And one thing I love about Peter, he gives you the straight scoop, very transparent, says how he feels. And, we'll talk about what they're doing. We'll talk about the hobby. We'll talk about even what other companies do. He's very, he doesn't hold back, and always appreciate that. And what you hear on the air is him off the air. There's no shtick there, and very refreshing. And always like getting Peter on. He's very busy, but things are settling down a little bit. They just made some new announcement on some new submission levels, cutting prices in half and quicker turnaround times. And as we know in the grading space, it's usually the other way around. So sort of nice to get good news for a change in the grading. And if you're not paying attention, SGC's made some serious moves in the grading space. So there you go. Going to be an interesting conversation with Peter. So with that being said, let's not delay and start the show.
This is King NASCAR from the NASCAR Radio Podcast. And remember, the hobby is the people.
Pastime Marketplace has a line of graded card cases that are waterproof, airtight, dust-tight, and hardened to protect and organize your valuable collection. Each of our cases come with pre-cut and pre-formed foam, so you don't have to cut and tear the foam when you get your case. The pre-cut foam inserts are sized to hold PSA, Beckett, SGC, and CGS slabs. Store it all safely and securely with a case from Pastime Marketplace. Check them out at www.pastimemarketplace.com.
Sports Card Nation, it's now time to chop it up with our featured guest on the one-of-one card shop guest line. Let's go!
Glad to have this next gentleman back on. Not his first time, not even close to being on the show. We last spoke to him was at the National in Chicago back in August. So it's been a little bit between him dropping by, and glad to have him back from SGC. Peter Steinberg, welcome back.
Thanks, John. Pleasure being here, and I appreciate you having me.
So, like I said, we last spoke in August. Nothing has happened in the hobby from that time to now. So I'm not sure what we're going to discuss. Obviously, I kid. I mean, just from SGC's perspective, how's it been from the show? And before, I don't want to ramble on, but before you even, that when you guys at that show, you didn't take any submissions. It was sort of a different thing. You did giveaways and breaks. Going by your booth, the crowds were crazy. You made your breaking debut. You did very well from the times I was watching. Yeah, you pulled some nice stuff as well. From that, what's been sort of the response, and how's business been?
Yeah, look, so much has happened. Like you kind of alluded to since that time. It's really crazy. We're kind of in dog years, as far as the hobby goes. But look, the National itself was just fantastic. SGC really isn't in the business of kind of, puffing our chests out and making it like we're the best and all this. But it was just such a great time. I think the one regret I have is we actually didn't bring a camera crew there. And the reason we didn't is we didn't want to appear like we were just doing all this kind of, just kind of having this goodwill going around just to make some money off of it and monetize all of it. So we decided not to. My biggest regret, though, is that only so many people were able to participate and able to see what we'd done. I actually heard someone recently say, they were giving away like $20,000 worth of boxes, and they said it's the biggest giveaway in hobby history. And I said, wait a minute, my company spent $130,000 worth of boxes and gave them all away at the National. We just decided not to brag so much about it. But anyway, the National was so much fun. I mean, just meeting people, having our supporters come up to us and just tell us kind of what it's like on their end and how much they're enjoying working with SGC and bringing along our staff to kind of learn more about the industry. A lot of the team members that we had there, it was their first National that they'd attended, and it's a very special experience, obviously. The National was just fantastic. And honestly, John, I have no regrets because a lot of the updates that we just announced last week really would not have been possible without a turnaround time as luckily as brief as ours tends to be. And we owe that to some strategic decisions, one of which was not grading on site, which is a little different than in years past.
Yeah, no doubt. We're going to talk about some of those new announcements for sure. What do you think of where the hobby's at? We've seen, obviously, Fanatics has got 3 of the 4 major sport licenses. That's huge news. I mean, obviously you kind of wear 2 hats. Like you said, being on the show prior, you're a collector too. And then obviously your involvement with SGC. How do you view that maybe from both lenses, with both hats?
Yeah, look, I think that Fanatics coming in is undoubtedly a good thing in my opinion. I mean, when these guys are aligning themselves with folks like you and I who are, card collectors, it's a good thing. It means that they believe in it as much as we do. At the same time, it's very important that we're going about this new influx of whether you want to call it support or money, whatever it is, we go about it the right way. That is absolutely critical. One thing that Josh Luber, that I've heard him say, which I greatly appreciate, is he said that this is not a revolution, it's merely an evolution. And that's very important because at the end of the day, the hobby wasn't in need of a lifeline before Fanatics decided to come and drop by. Quite the opposite. It was booming, which is why it caught the attention of such a prestigious brand. But I think in general, there's always kind of different paths you can go down. And although we're still not at a point where I think Fanatics is even really working yet, they're really just kind of getting their feet under them. I hope they make the right decisions. And in my opinion, intentions matter. I've learned that at SGC. If you are well-intended and you're looking to legitimately kind of further, move the hobby forward, it's hard to screw it up. If you mean to do good, you usually will. And on the other side, if you don't really care about the well-being of the hobby or the little guy or the collectors, I think it's very easy to make some mistakes that can be very harmful to all of us. So hopefully, I have to think that their plan is a long-term plan where the health of the hobby is kind of at the forefront of every decision they make.
Yeah, some of the early talk coming out when that news broke too, was that they wanted to do grading, like they wanted to kind of do everything in-house. And I'm not just saying this because I'm talking to you. I said this on my show without you being on the show. Like, to me, that's a conflict of interest. I don't want someone grading their own product they're producing. I think that's, for lack of a better term, I mean, I think it's a conflict of interest. I think it's sort of odd to do that. If SGC made cards, I wouldn't want you grading your own production. So that I haven't heard much talk since the early stages about that. I'm guessing they might have got some feedback, like kind of what I said from various sources. And so again, I haven't heard much as of recent. Your thoughts on something to that effect?
Yeah, look, I mean, I can only remember I'm here representing one of the grading companies, and there's not one, there's a few of us. So I can only speak to mine. And what I can say is that, it makes a lot of sense why you would say that, which is basically the assumption is that a card will receive favorable treatment if it's coming from you. If it's, if the person evaluating the card owns the card, it would make sense. There's a reason in our Instagram feed, you always have people complaining that we're too tough because we gave their card a 5 rather than a 10, However, I will say this, there are a lot of ugly assumptions out there that certainly don't ring true when it comes to my team. Speaking to those comments, John, I have people all the time that assume that the reason that they didn't have as high a gem rate as they're used to on their order must be because their grader woke up on the wrong side of the bed. I don't want to go as far as saying that's insulting because I know it's not made with any kind of, malicious intent, but it's almost a little insulting when you take so much pride in getting the grades right, in that training process of having a true hobby expert who has decades and decades, not of hobby experience, but of card grading experience, passing that torch that he or she takes so much pride in to the next grader. Then you beef up your quality assurance department with all of this amazing talent, these experts, just making sure the grades are accurate. To have someone imply that, well, the grader was in a bad mood, it's just not the case. So let me say this. I can totally understand why you'd say, maybe the manufacturer shouldn't be grading their own cards. But I will also say, I don't know what the future is going to hold with these major kind of seismic shifts in the landscape taking place. But that's why I say intentions matter, because I can tell you that if SGC was told to grade a card and it was owned by the President of the United States, I can promise you it would follow the same path, the same scrutiny as any other card. And if you think that we haven't received cards, whether it be from celebrities or really, really rich guys, it happens on a daily basis. And I can only speak to what happens here, but I know that there is not a single, there's really not a factor that I can see changing that, at least about my team. Because it's been built with this kind of the integrity of the process is really, once you lose that, you have nothing left. And it's I would argue that we have that as good as anyone, hopefully.
Well, it's called, like I said on my show, it's called third party, grading or authentication for a reason. Because it's a separate opinion, which is what you really would want. Now, I got to throw myself a little bit under the bus here, Peter, and I'm an honest guy. I think you know that. Yeah. You alluded to, I wasn't specifically saying SGC. I just kind of made a general grading. It came up that, hey, this was a 9. I got an 8. In a discussion, I said, well, sometimes, we all take our work, whether we like to admit it or not. Sometimes we take maybe home life to work and vice versa, take our work life even home. And, I'm not saying you specifically, but I got to believe it's possible that could happen.
I'll tell you what could happen. I'll be very upfront with you, John. I'm an open book, as hopefully you know, and I'm very proud of my team. So I got nothing to hide here. Here's what can happen. Okay. What can happen is that a card receives a 9.5 from SGC on a Tuesday. We see the same exact card on a Wednesday, and it receives a 10. You know when that would happen, though? When the card is somewhere between that 9.5 and 10. It's a 9.6668, okay? And the way that those decisions are made, the only thing we could do as kind of the industry really authority in a lot of ways, is make sure that the people grading the cards have the proper tools, the proper preparation in order to do so, the proper experience, know-how, the right intentions. And second, the thing to remember when a card is teetering on that back and forth, I always use the term grading is a team sport.
Going to step aside for a quick break, but after that, we'll be back with more with Peter Steinberg. Greg Morris Cards wants to buy your cards. A long-trusted name in the sports card business, Greg has been buying sports card collections for over a decade now. Any sport, baseball, basketball, football, or hockey, in any era, vintage or modern, will do. Just no junk wax error sets, please. To learn more and to sell Greg Morris your cards, go to www.gregmorriscards.com. Fill out the consignment sale request form and someone will get back to you on how to get cash for your cards. Also, if you're a dealer looking to sell your collection, Greg Morris wants to talk. Plenty of dealers use Greg Morris' massive eBay platform as a way to consign their cards. Take advantage of Greg's experience in the hobby to get more bang for your buck. Sports Card Nation is back with Peter Steinberg.
One thing that I've seen, I don't know if it's at other companies or just the public's, maybe it's a misconception, I don't know, but that these people are almost like in these cubicles and there's these quotas. Not at our company. I can't speak to anyone else, but at our company, these guys and girls are gathered around a big room, almost in a semicircle type thing. And the individual sitting next to them is always just an arm's length away because there is a constant dialogue between graders really on, again, that 9.5 going to a 10, or whether it's a 9.5, that kind of thing. So there are certain, I guess you'd say, fallacies of the process itself. One where, theoretically, if we had 50 grades to really get as granular as possible, you could argue, well, that would be a more effective way of evaluating these cards rather than a 1 to 10 scale. It's not feasible, though. And in a lot of ways, the industry was kind of built around card grading being a 1 to 10 process. And part of that means that you may have a card that's somewhere between a 9.5 and 10. The thing that you want to make sure is when you're evaluating that card to decide if it's going to bump up to the 10 or not, you better be consistent the next time it comes in. Meaning when that next card comes in, if it's got that same centering, but a little bit of a dent on the back, you're handling it all the same way is my point. Consistency is the key of everything because there are certain things you can't change. You can only kind of do your best. But if you're consistent across the board, you can at least say that everyone is getting the same approach. Everyone is getting the same service as accurate or flawed as I guess the collectors may deem it to be.
Yeah, people got to remember grading is subjective. There's the human element to it. I think you touched on it too, Peter. You generally more than one person will sometimes look at a card if there's any kind of debate at what grade it falls in on too. So to say
not sometimes. There's not a card that leaves our office. I'm very happy to say, John, there's literally zero situations. Like in a lot of ways, I help build this process, and there's zero chance for a card to leave our facility without it seeing, I could say 2 to be safe, but it's really closer to 3, actually, not just people, but trained experts. Now, their expertise is a little different. It's very rare to have 2 people that know exactly the same amount about cards or have the exact amount of years under their belt grading. But the bottom line is you will not receive a card that was graded by Mike or Steve or Tom or Sarah. It's always a group actually evaluated this card.
And that being said, that would eliminate that theory that one person having a rough morning before they got to work is going to penalize someone's card. So, but I wanted to be transparent that I have said it, not necessarily at SGC, just in general statement. And I don't know what everyone else does, but I'm glad that's not the case with how you guys operate. So now, hobby wise, we've seen, there's been a cooling off. There's all different terminology for it. Correction. I've heard some people call it a crash. I think it's in a way it can be a positive because things that maybe were unaffordable have come back within purchase reach. That being said, have you from a grading point of view, have you noticed anything internally pertaining to where we see the market at?
So it's been no secret that SGC's been very aggressive when it comes to scaling, very aggressive, and we maintain that. And what we find is the bigger you grow, the more manageable the body of work is that you have to put in. The more manageable that body of work is, the more fun you could have. Things like lowering price, which is good for everyone. Things like, promotions, things like having me come out and actually be able to talk about SGC in a positive way without being fearful that my company is going to be completely overrun by a tsunami of submissions. So I in a way, I like the term correction because I think it is correct. This is how it should be. Where again, I guess since the other companies have been closed, I wasn't able to say a word. Because if I said a word, we were at capacity just keeping the doors open. If I came out here and gave a really nice pitch about why SGC's number one or whatever it is, I would be threatening our turnaround time by taking in just more cards than we were capable of grading. So I can say this, there are many thousands of cards coming in and out of the SGC facility on a daily basis. It's no secret that there have been individuals exit cards for other shinier things, like whether it be NFTs or crypto, things like that. I think it's just important that we're putting in the time really to help grow the hobby. Meaning, we can't decide to collect cards for anyone else, but what we can do is give them really great resources to learn about cards and to see why we collect cards, and then let them make the decision. I'd be lying if I said that I didn't feel that this industry was greatly lacking that, though. I think that is one of the biggest failures of the current state of the industry, that there is no good resource. And I don't mean to say no one's doing it. I don't want to offend anyone. I know there are a million, YouTube channels where people are talking vintage and modern and trying to educate, and I applaud those people. But at the end of the day, there's no real centralized place where you can just learn about cards, not learn how to make money in cards, learn about cards, and at the end of the day, if no one is collecting these things, John, then no one wants to buy them off guys like you and me. And when we want to level up our collections and buy a new card, we'll have no money to do so because no one wants to buy what we currently own, So I think that the collecting component is something that this industry needs to really, really improve on. And, it's not easy. It's not an easy message to portray, and you got to have a lot of knowledge. So I can see why that person hasn't yet kind of shown themselves, but that's also why I'm eager to get out there because, whether it's helping SGC or not, I love talking cards. I love giving the pitch on why these things are so special, and any opportunity I could do to help kind of bring more new blood into the hobby, I always welcome. So,
Yep, nope, and that's not lip service. I've talked to you numerous times on the record, off the record. There's no shtick there. That's just you being genuine about it. One last thing before we get into some SGC stuff. We recently seen a competitor have a submission where the submitter owed $1 million. It's being reported and defaulted on that. Basically, they're claiming bankruptcy. And the first thing I thought of when this story broke is, how does a company let, someone run up? I don't care how, I wouldn't let my own dad run up $1 million tab. You know what I mean? And I love my dad. He knows that. But like, how does that, that to me, that was just a head scratcher. I don't care how well you know someone, you think they're going to be doing business with you for the long haul. $1 million is $1 million. And that was the first thing that stuck out to me, is like almost shame on them. Like that's crazy. And now you've got, it's not the one person being affected. As a group subber, you got all those people who paid that person for their cards to get graded. And now they're sort of being held hostage by the process. And just, I know you don't do business like that with tabs. When I subbed and I know you, I'm paying for my bill like anyone else. And I'm not complaining. That's the way I'm actually glad about that. That's the way it should be. So when you hear a story like this, to me, it's just head scratching. And I don't get it. I mean, I've done this a long time. I've been in the hobby a long time. It's a head scratcher to me. I mean, just, I know it's not you and your company, but just kind of how you see that even from a competitor's chair.
Yeah, look, I mean, being that it didn't really involve SGC, all I can do is speak from an outsider's perspective, which is, no different from your opinion, really. It's a tragedy. I mean, that's what it is. It's a tragedy. There were a bunch of innocent people that just tried to get their cards graded that are now paying, whether that be a price monetarily or just on their time. I mean, the amount of stress, and everyone lost here. Everyone lost here. No one gained. And I have to tell you, I was sent that news actually by an individual who almost presented it to me like, hey, this could be a good thing for you. And I texted back and I was like, this is not a good thing. You don't really understand how this works if you think this is a good thing for SGC, because it's awful. It's a tragedy. I mean, the fact is I'm just happy to say that, that situation is not only avoidable for SGC, but it literally couldn't happen. Remember, John, that one of the biggest benefits to kind of the SGC way of doing things is when a card comes in, sure, it's got to wait its turn, but it's going out. It's going out, not in months and months or years. It's going out that month, and what that does is it really mitigates the risk, and it avoids us having bills of $1 million, honestly. It's just a totally foreign idea to me, really, since I've kind of taken over here. Having a backlog that was that long was certainly never the plan, and we had our taste of it, and it was a bad taste, and we did not like it. We kind of immediately changed course and went in the right direction. So, look, I mean, the thing to remember as well, though, is that the current leadership over at PSA they see that too, you would think, which is why they closed down. In other words, if they wanted a business as usual, I guess they would have just kept running up that bill and kept the cards coming in. I can't really speak to, the leadership at PSA besides the fact that it's pretty obvious from the outside looking in that they actually agree with us, or why would they be closing down and not taking submissions and things like that. So, the bottom line is when the hobby gets hurt, it hurts SGC. When the hobby grows, it helps SGC. And in this case, just bad news all around. And I don't know what to say. It's almost like I wish we could help, but unfortunately, it's just a bad situation.
All right, time to step aside for another quick commercial break. Well, we'll be back with more with Peter right after that.
The Sports Card Shop is your small-town local card shop with a global reach. Located in New Buffalo, Michigan, the shop is one of the most accessible in the Midwest. In addition to being an authorized Panini direct dealer, the Sports Card Shop carries all major trading card brands, including Topps, Upper Deck, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh!, and more. With all that new wax, 500,000 singles, and showcases full of graded cards, you're sure to find something great for your collection, whether you're just starting out or a seasoned collector. The Sports Card Shop is your one-stop shop. So call us, come see us, or visit us on the web and social media. Our phone number is 269-469-0140. Website is thesportscardshop@moco.com. The Sports Card Shop is part of the Moco Retail Group, connecting sports, the hobby, and people around the world.
We are back with SGC's Peter Steinberg. I just had Mike Moynihan on the show actually last week, and we talked about this what happened, and we're both fans of SGC. Truth be told, Mike, and I told him I would probably be talking to you soon, and he mentioned just out loud, it's on the show, like maybe you guys can even extend like an olive branch to those who maybe didn't get their cards graded because of what happened. They get their cards back, ungraded. It's an opportunity for SGC maybe to give them sort of maybe a discount or some kind of a break. It would be, he described it as good PR and good for the hobby. Is that something I mean, I don't know how much you can say, but is that something
you think
about?
John, I'm the one who runs SGC, man. I'm just a dude like you, my friend. I want to do right as bad as anyone. And I can tell you the only thing I could point to that kind of mirrors the situation is to a much, much, much smaller scale. This is going back a year or two now, but we did have a group submitter who doesn't submit anymore. But long story short, just it went haywire. We just offered free grading to everyone. That's what we did. It wasn't a matter of we didn't overcomplicate it. We didn't care. We just wanted to offer free grading to the people that were negatively affected and move on and fix the issue. So I guess what I'm trying to say is if there was a way, remember, I don't have a list of everyone, affected by this with that kind of thing. So it's almost like if it was feasible 100%. And if you doubt that what I'm saying is true, guys, there's so much that SGC does behind. We're just not in the business of, just marketing how nice we are and how great we are. I mean, the other week, I was approached by Aaron, who runs the Slab Stocks page, and he was doing a promotion for Camp Kesem, which is, if you don't know, that's basically a program where it sends children whose parents have been diagnosed with cancer kind of away for a week where they can interact with other kids who are also fighting either, I guess, cancer themselves or it's in their family. And it just sounded like the most awesome idea to me. And Aaron's telling me that it's all around cards. He's basically selling these cards, and every card he sells, 100% of the proceeds go to Camp Kesem. So imagine, he comes to me and he prefaces it with, Pete, don't feel obligated, don't feel pressured. I said, Aaron, what are you looking for? I think he said, Pete, would SGC be willing to donate $2,500 and some free grades? I said, Aaron, we'll do $5,000 and some free grades. I want to be clear to everyone. I say this a lot. There's enough money here, guys. There just is. The grading fees are high. I know that. And I'm able to feed our staff and everyone very, very well because of all of your support. But don't think for a second that this is a company that has to eke out every last penny from all of you. We are doing A-OK. We wouldn't be here without you. And my point is, speaking for the Marks card situation, if there's a way we can make this hobby better, we want to, or we wouldn't have thrown away $130,000 last year at the National just to put smiles on a few kids' faces and collectors' faces. It's just what we do. We're going to be here for a long time doing it if I have anything to say about it. And I want everyone to know as well, the reason I prefaced it by saying I'm just a guy, because it's easy, John, because there's a lot of money in this, my friend. We're blessed for it to be easy for us to make a difference. And that's what we want to do. We want to move prices down in the right direction. We want to be the heroes of the hobby. It's what makes me really happy. I was a kid who was obsessive with his card collection. All I wanted to do was go to the card shop every day of the week, all weekend long. I didn't spend $1 on anything else except my cards and my autograph collection. And to be in this position is just stupid for me. It is beyond a dream come true. I pinch myself every day. And when I see bad things happening like that, I want to help turn them into positive so badly that at times it almost hurts SGC. Yeah. So my point is unfortunately on that one, I think PSA's got that list of people. I do not. And this one I can't really help, but just so anyone out there knows how SGC is run and that kind of thing. That's how. There's enough here to go around, and we don't need to be jerks to put it lightly, if that makes sense.
Yep. No, well said. And I know you guys yourself and SGC have always been very charitable, and that's refreshing and important just the same. So you announced recently some changes, some positive ones. Different submission levels, quicker turnaround time. Every graded card will have a photo that can be accessible so people can cross-reference what they're purchasing or acquiring. So you better explain it than I touched on some of it, and maybe not all of it. Let everyone out there know what's going on at SGC with some of those changes. Sure.
Like you mentioned, we it's been no secret that SGC's done a pretty good job of getting the cards in and getting them back. And not an ounce of quality has been sacrificed with that uptick in speed, I guess you'd say. Having said that, as our capacity has grown, we have come to realize that we can offer more than we were offering. You know, when we set up those two services, we did it at a time where both companies officially shut its doors. COVID was still, you know, kind of running rampant, and there were so many new collectors coming to the hobby every day, just wanting to make a quick flip. And my point is we had realized very quickly back then that we didn't have the capability of having 4 services. It just wouldn't work with the almost uncontrollable inflow that was coming. As things started to settle down in the hobby, and I was able to not only hire, but also we recently, you know, just got an additional 6,000 square feet of space and more equipment. It became very obvious that now was the time to offer more. So we basically have offered a 10-day service along with a 5-day service. As I said, as you said, we're now offering front and back high resolution images of every single card that we grade, regardless of value. That's a big security feature. It basically stops holder tampering pretty much altogether. Now, unfortunately, I wish these changes were made 20 years ago when this company was founded. Unfortunately, they were not. So our data is going back about a year and a half. But moving forward, all cards graded by SGC will have high-resolution images made available to the public on our website. So if you're ever interested in buying a card, you could be sure to verify that holder's authenticity by visiting the GoSGC.com website. In addition to that, we also made our HD or high-resolution images available upon receiving your email with your grades. So obviously, you know, you submit, John, you've got to know that a really fun part of the process is to see how you did, obviously. And when you see how you did, you also get kind of a sneak peek of your cards and their new tuxedo holders only a few minutes after they've left our facility. So it's just a little value add there. And the cool thing is while we did this, we actually lowered the price of our most expedited service. We cut that price in half, from $250 a card to $125 a card. And we actually were able to offer some of our group submitters even more competitive pricing. So the bottom line is a value add with a price drop. So that can't suck too much.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't seem to happen in 2021 and 2022. So when it does, kudos to you and your team there. It's kind of a dumb question, but I'm assuming response has been pretty good right off the bat.
Response has been amazing. You know, it really has been. The effect that people's comments and opinions have in this hobby just it's extremely impactful in our building. You know, we read this stuff, we appreciate the feedback, and it means so much to us when someone is legitimately happy about the news and appreciative of the news. And as far as that goes, I mean, the overall consensus, it's been pretty resoundingly positive. I purposely prefaced in the video, though, you know, a lot of people, every collector has kind of different wants and needs in the hobby, and it's impossible to hit everyone at once, you know. And I wanted everyone to realize that we happen to choose these few things to work on and kind of innovate. But we're not in the business of gloating like we're the heroes by any means. I mean, there's a lot more work to be done. But the bottom line is it means a lot to me that people feel like we're working on it, that people feel like, you know, for whatever I love about SGC, or maybe I don't love about SGC, at least I know that they're trying really hard to make something happen over there. And we've made a tremendous amount of progress. I mean, it's pretty crazy if you kind of list everything out on a bulletin board, what we've been able to accomplish over the last 2 years or so. But we're already working on the next project, John. To be honest, we're going to have a nice little update coming soon, and it's not going to involve a price increase. So, you know, just another great one. You know, this kind of thing is going to keep continuing, by the way. So it's like if you don't like SGC yet, well, we're only going to get, you know, bigger and just going to keep coming out with this good news. So I don't know why you don't like us now, but hopefully that changes in the near future, because we're working really, really hard to just kind of, at the very least, be everyone's kind of hobby friend. You know what I mean?
Yep.
We don't like enemies. The negativity doesn't help anyone.
All right. time once again to hear from one of our great sponsors. But right after that, we'll return to talk more with Peter Steinberg.
Hey everybody, have you heard about Collectible? It's the one-stop shop where any collector can buy and trade affordable shares in some of the most rare and valuable sports cards and memorabilia in the world, starting from just $5. From 1952 Mickey Mantle PSA 10s in Wilt Chamberlain's iconic rookie uniform to one-of-one Patrick Mahomes RPAs, rare LeBron James logo mans, and everything in between, Collectible is creating never-before-seen access and opportunities for all. Let's grow the hobby we love together. Please note this is not a recommendation or solicitation to buy any security. All investment decisions should be undertaken after doing your own research.
We've returned to talk more with Peter Steinberg of SGC. And so your turnaround times, were reported anywhere from 35 to 45 days, now 20 to 25. What do you attribute the faster turnaround times? How are you getting that done?
Yeah, just to be clear, John, I mean, the turnaround time was never actually close to 45 to 50 days. I came out with an update. What I had seen is right when we were at about 18 business days, let's say, roughly, we were at, let's say, somewhere between 18 and 20 business days, but I'm able to forecast what's coming. Because remember, when the cards are sent in, they actually wait in line most of the time. The actual process itself is not what takes a month. The issue is the line may be a month long to be entered into that process. So what I was able to see is when we were at 18 or 20 days, I could see, whoa, this is going to grow. And it's pretty obvious how I could see that because the numbers that are kind of in our building, the number of cards submitted exceeded the amount that we can send out. So you basically look at what's left over. You divide that by the amount of cards that you can process in a day, and now you see how many business days you're going to be falling behind over the next month or so. I was able to see that SGC was on track, if it was at 20 business days, to get all the way back to about 25, 26, 27 business days. In order to get out in front of that, because the one thing I never want to do is tell someone it'll be 25 days, and then it's 27 days, is I decided to say, well, it looks like it might get to 27 days, so let's jack the thing up to 45 to 50 days. That way, anyone submitting will still be receiving their cards unbelievably, I guess, in an unbelievably quicker amount of time than what they expected. My point is it's basically a big, fat, under-promise and over-deliver type approach.
I was just going to use that term. So you took the words right out of my mouth, right. And that's always a good thing. And I think people, I know I appreciate that when that occurs. So I think, like most people, I think they do the same. So we talked a little bit about last year's National and what you guys did there. The National's coming, we're one day closer each day here, Atlantic City this year. Do you know kind of going in what your plans are? Or are they still sort of on the table?
Yeah, look, I think the way that I kind of the decision making that I have to run through in my head, the way that I'll come to the decision, I guess, is I'm going to see what I believe our audience wants the most. And that could be a bunch of free cards and kind of a carnival atmosphere and a lot of fun. Or it could just be your traditional look, man. I just traveled 8 hours to get to the National. I want a great on-site, man. I don't have access to that. That's what I want. And I think the first thing that I need to do is get a really good gauge, or at least as good a gauge as I can, on which of those two our community would prefer. Once I've figured that out, I basically have to play that against what our capabilities are. Because a common kind of misconception of the public is that we just have these endless resources to go to the show, grade on site, catch up at home. I wish that was the case, but there are only so many members of our team. Not everyone is a card expert that could be a grader and that kind of thing. So what we need to do is see what we're capable of, because the one thing that we really don't want to do is hurt the actual service in the name of attending a show, even if it is the National, Just remember, there's roughly there's about a year minus a week of normal card grading, and then there's a week at the National. And we certainly don't look back with regret that we didn't grade on site. But at the same time, we want to also make sure that we are really just putting everything we have behind it. Meaning if we can go and grade on site, I think we'd really like to. So still up in the air, but we're well intended. Like I said, we just want to make the right move for everyone.
Well, I think it shows you're being proactive. You're weighing out. We're still. I mean, as close as we're getting. We're still 6 months away too. So a lot can happen between now and then. So we'll see.
Right. Yeah. Look, I'm sure a lot will happen between now and then. we've seen that for sure. But look, the one thing I can say is, regardless of what our presence at the National will be, you will certainly be able to come say hi to the team, meet the team. I can promise you'll see that all of us are just really good people. That's what our team is made up of, good people that love this hobby. And I can just promise everyone that no matter what we choose to do, we will sure as heck be doing everything we can to bring them a really good national from SGC.
Yeah, and I'll speak some accolades here for last year not taking submissions. I mean, you had some of the largest crowds. You could hear you. I wouldn't even be near your booth, and I could hear people cheering or rah rah, and people, like you said, $130,000 worth of product, no questions asked, was given out as prizes. If anyone complains about that, I don't know what to tell you, but even if that's the direction you go, it's 1 week, you know what I mean? So you can sub. As someone who likes to sub cards myself, what's 1 week in the grand scheme of things, and you put on a good show, you give back to the hobby community. I don't think that's I think that's a good thing. If that's the direction you go again, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. So
yeah, we'll see. And that's what almost makes it hard. There is no, if there was a sure, this is the best option, this is the best answer, I think that I'd already have been decided on that and working towards making it a success. It's just tough because I think that there is a fair amount of people that probably would love to get cards graded on site, but I think there's also a lot of people who probably attended last national and would love to be able to attend a similar one as far as SGC is concerned. So we'll see. But regardless, the national is just awesome, man. It's a great time, and I love it.
Yeah, for me, it's driving distance now, so that's always a plus coming from New York to New Jersey. So I'll be looking forward to that. I won't have to fly. I'll be able to bring maybe pack more stuff than I usually do because I'm not going on a plane. So, obviously, I look forward to seeing you guys there as always. So I appreciate you, Peter, making some time, sharing some of your thoughts and insight, not just on SGC, but the hobby as well. You've always been very honest and, like you said, transparent. And it's sometimes becoming a rarity in some cases. So I appreciate it when we get that, when we see it.
I greatly appreciate you, John. I mean, really likewise, just a sincere hobby guy. And I can kind of recognize that when I see it, and I appreciate it as well, as does, I'm sure, your audience. And it's always a pleasure coming on here, and I'm happy to do so anytime, man. Thanks again.
Yeah, we'll do it. I have a feeling we'll do it again. So, hey, continued success, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks a lot, John. I'll talk to you later.
Iron Sports Cards is your #1 source for all your PSA and other grading submissions. Their elite status improves turnaround times. Heck, they even provide the card savers. Their chat rooms provide updates on all your submissions. They also offer wax options and single cards to cover all the bases. Check them out on Facebook at Iron Sports Cards Group or on the web at ironsportscards.com. Or even give them a call at 1-877-IRON-PSA. Rob's got you covered. What doesn't one of one card shop do? From box, case, and personal breaks, there's always fire being pulled. They offer bulk grading subs, and their large store located in Strongsville, Ohio, offers an incredible selection of sports cards, non-sports, and authentic autographed memorabilia. Steve and family will treat you right. Check them out on Instagram at One of One Card Shop or on the web at oneofOneCardShop.com.
All right, that's going to do it for episode 165. I want to thank you out there downloading and listening to the show, making it possible to do this each and every week, and that's not lost on me. I want to thank my guest, Peter Steinberg. Love how he's a straight shooter, gives you the straight scoop, and doesn't care what you think, but loves and cares about the hobby, and so that's the direction and angle he comes from. And even when he talks about a competitor in the grading space, he'll go after him if necessary, but he doesn't do it just for the sake of doing it. And even on today's episode and in the past, we've heard him, even defend a competitor to how they're doing some things the right way, and that speaks volumes about Peter's character. And always a pleasure having him on, because what you see is what you get, and sometimes that's not as prevalent as we always like, and always fun having him on. And he'll talk about, besides grading like we did today, we'll talk about the hobby and things going on. And you got to remember, besides running SGC, he's a collector as well. So he was, like he'll tell you, he was in the hobby before he was with SGC, and so big picture, he cares about the hobby as well. Programming note: Mondays, HQH, or Hobby Quick Hits, will be Dichotomy of a Deal. I'm going to talk about that large collection that I just purchased. We're going to get into the details, what was in it, with specifics, how the deal went down, and what my plans are for, and all that good stuff. And again, I don't always talk about purchases I make. I buy cards, all year long, but this was a rather large deal, and I can make an episode of Hobby Quick Hits about it that I believe will be somewhat interesting enough to do. So that will be Monday. So we're gonna bring this thing to a close. And with that being said, we wish everyone out there well. Be safe, take care, and we'll talk to you real soon.